In this lesson, we're going to start drawing the slabs and the main walls in our section. Now, the first thing that you want to do is you want to prepare your working area so that your plan that you're drawing from is as close to your section as possible. Now, since we have a couple of things in the way, like we have this lounge, we have the text over here, we have the base point, all of these things are in the way, making the distance between the information that we're using as a reference and the actual section quite large. Now, instead of putting the section above our plan, which would make it quite odd because of the viewing direction, what I like to do is a little bit of a workaround, and it's a bit of a speed tip that I like to share, is that you can go and copy your entire plan, move it downwards, and then go and trim everything that is below your section line. This is a little bit of a workaround that works mainly when you have a relatively simple plan and you're in the beginning phases of your design. Once you have really complex plans, then things start becoming a little bit more tricky. And the other workaround that you can also do is to split your viewport into two separate viewports. So you can also do something like so, where you basically are working on a plan over here and you are working on a section or an elevation over here. You can also rotate this view to that 90 degrees so that you keep your original plan in the same way, and you basically draw construction lines to your section and you basically stay zoomed in on both areas. So I'm going to do the workaround method. I'm going to go back to my single viewport and I'm going to take this plan, I'm going to now trim it in a big way. So leaving this section, I'm just going to delete all of the grid lines. I don't need them anymore since I've already copied them down to my section. And I'm going to also keep the slab heights in place. I'm going to keep the slab height here because I want to make sure that I have that information. And if I need anything else, I can move it up. Next thing, you trim, select the line that you're going to trim by, and then you just draw a crossing window across your entire plan. So if you do accidentally lose any information, you can always still revert by looking at the above original drawing. But basically this is going to be a bit of a snippet that you're going to be using, and you can move it quite close to your drawing, and this will then allow you to start only focusing on what you actually have to work on. So now you can zoom into this, you don't really have to zoom in and out a lot, and you have a very clear working space. So the first thing you want to do with your sections is you want to really map out where your slabs are going to be. Now we already have this line over here, which is denoting our ground floor. So you can go to your slab level and draw a thick line which is showing where your slab is. Now we know that our slabs are going to be about 200 to 250 millimeters, so we can start to offset by that amount. So I'm going to type in 200 since this is on the ground floor, doesn't have to be too thick, and there will then be some other layers happening below that, but I'm not too worried about it because it is a conceptual stage. So I'm just basically getting the main structural thicknesses in place, the main walls, and then the rest will develop as we grow this design further and further. The next thing, I'm going to copy this door and I'm going to move it downwards. And that's going to start giving me some basic idea that this is where the slab is ending. I'm going to now trim this down. I know that my slab will end roughly about at the end of that column. And I can now trim the slab to that column. That column will now be a gray line since we're going to be seeing the edge in elevation, and I'm going to draw this line in green. This door will get trimmed as well. And basically I'm slowly starting to crystallize bit by bit what my section is looking like. So here I know that I have a couple of columns that I'm going to draw in elevation later. I have a window that I'm going to draw. And the main thing that I want to represent here is this drop line, since we have 2.45 here and 2.4. That means that at this point we have a 50 millimeter drop. So I'm going to trim this slab down, and I'm going to move down a level by 50 millimeters, and I'm going to just draw in this slab difference. Now this line over here is going to be timber. So the timber deck ends roughly or at least exactly in that position. And then you want to extend to that line. So you're basically just looking at your plan as reference, finding your main lines, and then you're basically drawing from there on. So this is already going to be the beginning of my pool. I can start to look at the depth of the pool, so that will be about 1.2 meters. So that'll be to there, and I can just start filleting these edges of the pool. So slowly but surely I'm starting to outline what that section is looking like. So here I'm drawing down this line, and I'm going to just manually grab that end and stretch it across. Same thing here. And here we have that rim flow edge, and since the water level is not going to be overflowing over this, we want to offset that by about, let's say, 100 millimeters. We can also stretch this downwards by that same 100 millimeters so that we retain our 1.2 meters of water depth, and this will now represent our water, this line over here. That won't be green anymore, that will be a much lighter color, and we can later hatch that in or do that in the Photoshop phase of this course. And over here we're going to start drawing our water detail. So you can either do this now, it may be a little bit too detailed to really get into, especially since we haven't taken the time to draw it in plan yet. But I know from that sketch design from the original drawing that we have a rim flow situation. So I just know that I can draw in a default design for that rim flow edge, which looks something like this. If I just offset by 300, I'm going to draw a horizontal line, stretch this line down by about 30 millimeters. This line will extend all the way to that edge and get trimmed, and that will be my rim flow. And after that I can draw a polyline, and I can have a 400 wide catch tray, 200 lip, 150 edge, and I draw that line going vertically down into the garden. So this will then be a detail that we can refine later, but the main thing is that I just get a rough outline in place. Over here we have a timber detail, so we can start drawing the thickness of the timber, whatever that may be. We will also know that there will be a slight lip to the timber here, so we can also look at those details as we refine this at a later stage. But the main thing is I have that ground floor in place. That is number one. The next thing, you can start drawing in your ground line, which is going to be natural ground of 1 meter here, but we're going to have some artificial ground being added so that we can get that driveway up to the building. And you can start drawing your driveway as it occurs. So here you would actually trim this ground line, and what you would also like to do is you would like to show where the ground line used to be using a different color. So if you have an original ground line, you can show that as a dashed line or a phantom line, and you can then say that this is where the original ground line used to be. So I'm going to just change that line type, make it a little bit bigger. And then we can add a label saying that is the original ground. So that is the first level. What I'm going to do in the next lesson is to focus on the walls, and we'll also add the upper level, which is going to be taken from this plan over here. So I'll then show you how we can start cross-referencing between the different plans so that we can get all the information to add up together. So that's going to be handled in the next lesson. This one was mainly focused on getting your original slabs and some of your original vertical lines in place, such as these walls of the pool and the wall that's going to make the side of the garage.